Sellers in Salvador are still pricing like the 2022 peak. Buyers are coming in like it's 2009 trying to negotiate everything. And somehow, homes are still selling. The gap right there, that's what's making this market feel so off. I haven't seen it play out like this before, and it's affecting anyone buying or selling in Cape Coral and Fort Myers right now. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through what's actually driving all of this and what you should be doing based on which side you're on. Hey, by the way, I'm Hernandez. I'm out in these streets every day, sitting face to face with sellers who can't figure out why their home isn't moving, talking to buyers who thought they had more time, then realized they didn't. You know, I'm seeing all of this up close, not on a spreadsheet. And I'm telling you, this shift is going to affect the decisions you make this year. No matter if you're thinking about listing, buying, or just trying to make sense of what's going on out here. Because this market is acting in a way we really haven't seen before. And if you go into it with the wrong assumptions, it's going to cost you. To understand where we are today, you've got to go back a bit. None of this makes sense without looking at the boom first. Let's think back to when Southwest Florida felt like in 2021 and 2022. Homes were getting multiple bids within days. Buyers were having contingencies, paying over asking, doing whatever it took to just lock something in. That used to be normal for the market out here, and people were moving in waves. Remote work opened up, rates were near historic lows, and everyone wanted out of the cold, out of high tax states, out of crowded cities. And a lot of them landed right here: Fort Myers, Cape Coral, and Naples. Demand was through the roof. Inventory was almost non-existent. Bidding wars were just part of the process. And there's one factor pushing buyers out of this market today that almost nobody saw coming back then. I'll get to it in a bit because it changes how you look at all these numbers. So prices shot up across Lee County, Collier County, and Charlotte County faster than anyone had seen in decades. It felt like nothing could slow it down. And for a while, honestly, it didn't. But markets don't stay at the top forever. And the way this one started to slow down, it didn't follow the usual pattern. Before we get into that, quick thing. Around this point, people usually ask me, okay, what does this actually mean for me? So if you're trying to decide whether to sell, buy, or just sit tight in Cape Coral or Fort Myers right now, I can give you a clear read on where things stand. My contact info is in the description below. All right, let's keep going. So the first sign something had changed wasn't a headline. It was more of a feeling. By 2023, the calls started coming in differently. Sellers expecting a weekend rush, getting nothing. Buyers who lost out on 3 or 4 or 5 homes suddenly had choices. That urgency just dropped off almost overnight. Sales pulled back hard, down somewhere in the 20 to 30% range, or even higher depending on the property type. That's a real shift. But at the same time, prices barely moved. That's the part that threw people off. Usually when demand drops like that, prices move with it. Fewer buyers means sellers have to compete more and values start to come down. But that didn't happen here. Sellers were still looking at what their neighbor got in 2022 and they stuck to it. Now you've got that gap. Fewer buyers, same prices, and deals just started to stall. Keep that seller mindset in the back of your head, because when we get into what buyers can actually do with their leverage right now, it changes how you approach negotiations. Now, that standout was the first real sign this correction wasn't going to follow the usual path. And it set up everything we're seeing now. Because in 2026, multiple things are happening at once, all moving in different directions. What's happening right now is a bunch of things hitting at the same time. And that's what makes it so hard to read from the outside. Prices are correcting, but not collapsing. And a lot of segment values are down from the peak, but still way above where they were before COVID. So depending on when you bought, this either feels like a deal or a problem. If you bought in 2019, you're sitting on a lot of equity. If you bought at the peak in 2022, it's a tighter situation. At the same time, inventory is going up and buyers actually have options again. There are more listings across almost every county that we've seen in years. Homes are staying longer too. It's pretty common now to see properties take a month and a half, even 2 months to go pending. And when buyers have options, they slow down, negotiate, and just walk if something doesn't feel right. Sellers though are still coming in with expectations from a couple of years ago. So what happens is homes hit the market, sit for a while, and some of them just expire and come off altogether. But here's where it gets interesting. Activity is starting to pick back up. Pending sales across the region are actually higher than they were this time last year. And that's not something you usually see. Normally, prices and activity move together. When one drops, the other does too. Right now, activity is picking up while prices are still adjusting. Those two things don't usually move like that at the same time. There's also something else shaping all of this that a lot of people underestimate: the real cost of owning out here. The purchase price is just the starting point. I talk to buyers all the time who run the numbers on the home, feel good about it, and then the insurance quote comes in. Florida home insurance is expensive, and Southwest Florida is one of the most expensive areas in the state. For a typical single-family home in Lee County, you're usually looking at several $1,000s a year, and that's before flood insurance, which is separate. If you're in a higher risk zone, that number climbs even more. A lot of buyers got caught off guard. On top of that, the mindset has changed. Buyers aren't rushing anymore. They're comparing, negotiating, and reading everything closely. Sellers are still stuck on 2022 expectations, and when those sides don't line up, homes just sit. Then you layer in what's happened locally. Ian in 2022, then Helene and Milton in 2024. Those storms changed how people think about buying here, especially buyers coming from out of state. People are doing more homework now. Flood maps have changed, insurance costs have gone up, and different areas are behaving differently. Lee County and Charlotte County are behaving differently from Collier County right now. You're really dealing with multiple markets layered together. All of that is what makes this market feel so different now. So let's get into what this means in real life. Starting with sellers, because this shift has flipped things for them. All right, I'm saying this play out over and over right now. A seller looks at what their neighbor got in 2022 and lists it at that number. First week, a few showings. Second week, fewer. By week 4, nothing. They drop the price, still nothing. Months go by and eventually they either cut hard or pull the home off the market. After losing time and momentum they can't get back. The rules have changed, and the sellers who adjust early are the ones who actually make it to the closing table. Overpricing right now doesn't just slow things down, your listing starts stacking days. Buyers begin to question it, and you end up cutting the price anyway. Usually more than you would have if you priced it right from the start. So what actually works? Basically, sharp pricing from day one. Pricing based on where homes are closing, now where listings are sitting. There's a gap between those two right now, and that's where a lot of sellers get stuck. Incentives help too. Rate buy downs, helping with closing costs, those things matter. Buyers are focused on their monthly payment, so anything that brings that number down gets attention. Presentation is huge because there's more competition than there's been in years. Curb appeal, landscaping, a clean interior, good staging, all of it counts. Buyers want something they can move into without extra work, especially with higher monthly costs. So if your home can't stand out, make it happen. At the end of the day, the homes that are selling right now aren't always the nicest ones. They're the ones set up the right way. I mean, price, condition, and exposure. And work with an agent who's going to be honest about your home's value. That's not always easy to hear, but hearing what you want instead of what you need will cost you time and money. On the other side of this, buyers are in a much stronger position that they've been in years. That's what we're getting into now. Think back to what it felt like buying 5 years ago. You'd find a house you love, write a strong offer, and still lose. People were doing whatever they could just to get under contract, waiving contingencies, going over asking, sometimes without even seeing the place in person. It was exhausting, but that version of the market is gone. And what we have now gives buyers more room than they've had in years. You can negotiate on prices, ask for repairs, and have the seller help with closing costs. You can even ask for a rate buy down where the seller puts money toward lowering your interest rate, which brings down your monthly payment. A couple years ago, those conversations weren't happening at all. You also have time. You can compare homes, walk multiple properties, and think things through. But I want to be clear on this. Not every home gives you that kind of flexibility. I've seen this more than once. A buyer comes in, hears the market is softer, and assumes they can negotiate everything. Then a well-priced home in a good area hits the market. They wait a week to go see it. By the time they get there, it's already under contract. The market isn't slow across the board. Homes that are priced right in the right locations are still moving. Sometimes under 2 months, sometimes faster. Meanwhile, an overpriced listing might sit for 4 or 5 months. Those are completely different situations, and treating them the same will cost you. So you definitely want an agent who can tell the difference. Someone who looks at a property and says, this one is priced right, move on it. And is just as honest when there's room to negotiate. From a strategy standpoint, focus on listings that have been sitting and already have price cuts. Pay attention to sellers who bought during the peak and now need to move for personal reasons. Those tend to be more motivated. And homes that came back on the market after the deal fell through, that's where you start to find real leverage. And if you're in a position to buy, this is a real window. Sellers are cutting prices, helping with closing costs, and buying down rates. That kind of setup doesn't stay around forever. The buyers who act while others are still hesitating are usually the ones who feel best about their timing later on. With all that in mind, let's look at what this means overall. Okay, let's call it what it is. This isn't a crash. Activity is picking picking back up. Buyers are out there again and homes are still moving. So the market is just adjusting, but it's not a boom either. Prices are still coming down in some areas, inventory is higher, and sellers have to be more realistic than they've had to be in years. What we're actually in right now is a reset, and these are the hardest markets to read because the old rules don't really work anymore, and the new ones aren't obvious yet. Buyers are focused on today's reality, sellers are still thinking about peak prices, and that gap between the two is where deals fall apart every day. The people who understand what's actually going on, those are the ones making smart moves over the next few years. The worst thing you can do right now, whether you're buying or selling, is walk into this market thinking it's still 2022. That phase is over, and the sooner you adjust to that, the better your outcome is going to be. The people who win in a reset market are the ones who understand what's actually going on and make a move while everyone else is still trying to figure it out. If you're thinking about buying or selling Cape Coral or Fort Myers and want a real read on where things stand right now, email me at german@swflhouses.com today. I'll give you a straight answer what makes sense for your situation, and I really hope that helps. I've got a lot more coming, so if you want to stay on top of what's actually happening in Southwest Florida real estate, hit subscribe. More videos are on the way, and I'll keep you straight. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.